The guard in the shadows. The prison basement was colder at midnight than Jensen remembered. The fluorescent lights buzzed weakly overhead, throwing pale, sickly light against the concrete walls. Every step echoed, each sound magnified in the silence. Ramirez had begged her not to go alone, but the message had been clear: come alone. She gripped the handle of her flashlight like a weapon, her other hand hovering near her holstered sidearm. The smell of damp concrete mixed with the metallic tang of the freezer nearby. At the far end of the corridor, a figure stepped from the shadows. It was a guard. His uniform hung loose on his wiry frame, his eyes darting nervously from side to side. Jensen recognized him vaguely: Officer Dalton, one of the quieter men on the roster. He looked younger than most, his hands trembling as he held a cigarette he hadn't lit. "You sent the message?" Jensen asked. Dalton nodded quickly. His voice was barely above a whisper. "I don't have much time. They'll know I'm gone." "Who's they?" He swallowed hard. "The ones running this place. Bennett, King, and others. It's bigger than you think." Jensen narrowed her eyes. "Cruz's murder. You know who ordered it." Dalton's cigarette snapped in half between his fingers. Cruz opened his mouth. "He told the wrong people he was going to testify. They couldn't risk it. Bennett did the job himself. But he's not just a killer. He's the enforcer." "The enforcer?" Dalton nodded again, sweat beading his brow. "Bennett makes sure the pipeline runs smooth. Weapons, drugs, whatever comes through the kitchen. It doesn't move unless Bennett says so. Cruz threatened that. That's why he's dead." Jensen's heart pounded. "And the warden?" Dalton's eyes flickered with fear. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a ragged whisper. "King's not just aware, he's profiting. Everything that comes in gets sold out the back to gangs, cartels, even militias. Blackridge is the hub. The prison is just cover." The words hit like a thunderclap. She'd suspected it, but hearing it spoken aloud by someone inside was different. It was confirmation. Dalton's hands shook so badly he nearly dropped what he pulled from his pocket. A small flash drive, scratched and scuffed. He pressed it into Jensen's palm. "Surveillance logs. Shipments. Everything they buried. It's all here. But if they find out I gave it to you..." A noise cut him off. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, coming down the corridor. Dalton's face drained of color. "It's him," he whispered. From the shadows emerged a figure broader, heavier, more confident. Officer Bennett. His bandaged arm rested against the grip of his baton. His smirk was gone, replaced by something colder. "Well," he said, his voice echoing off the walls, "looks like the rat found a friend." Dalton froze, his whole body trembling. Jensen stepped in front of him, her pistol raised. "Don't move, Bennett." Bennett laughed softly, shaking his head. "Detective, you don't get it, do you? You're standing in our house, pointing a gun at the man who keeps it running. Do you really think that's going to end well for you?" "I know you killed Cruz," Jensen snapped. "I've got the medical report, the fabric, and now I've got a witness. You're done." Bennett's smile twisted into something darker. "A witness? You mean Dalton?" He took a slow step forward. "Ask him how long he lasts once I tell the others he talked. He won't see morning." Dalton flinched, eyes wide. "Don't listen to him," he begged Jensen. "He'll kill me." The tension stretched like wire. Jensen's finger hovered on the trigger. She could end it now, and Bennett drag his body out and let the evidence speak for itself. But before she could decide, Bennett made his move. In a blur, he pulled his baton and hurled it at the fluorescent light overhead. The bulb shattered, plunging the corridor into near darkness. The sudden burst of sparks blinded Jensen for a split second, just long enough. Dalton screamed. A gunshot rang out. When Jensen's vision cleared, Bennett was gone, vanished back into the maze of shadows. Dalton was slumped against the wall, clutching his stomach, blood seeping between his fingers. "No, no, no!" Jensen dropped to her knees, pressing her hands against the wound. "Stay with me." Dalton's breath rattled. His eyes were wide with terror, but his voice was a whisper. "The drive, don't let them bury it." His hand tightened weakly around hers, then went limp. Jensen's stomach twisted. She looked down the darkened corridor, every shadow feeling like a predator waiting to strike. Bennett was still out there, and now he knew. He knew Dalton had broken the code, and he knew Jensen had the proof. Clutching the flash drive, she pulled herself to her feet. The silence of the basement pressed in on her, heavy as stone. Dalton's body was cooling at her feet. The code of silence had claimed another victim. But Jensen swore to herself it wouldn't claim her. Not yet. Secondly, the kitchen shipments. The flash drive felt heavier than it should have, like it carried the weight of every ghost that haunted Blackridge. Detective Laura Jensen slipped it into the inner pocket of her jacket, her pulse still hammering from Dalton's death. His blood was drying on her hands, his last words echoing in her head, "Don't let them bury it." When she emerged from the basement, the prison was in chaos. The riot from cell block D had not burned itself out, it had spread. Inmates roamed the halls in packs, their orange jumpsuits stained with sweat, smoke and blood. Some carried sharpened metal scraps, others crude clubs. And here and there, Jensen spotted something worse, the unmistakable outline of rifles in trembling hands. The weapons from the crate. She and Ramirez barely made it back to the warden's administrative wing, slipping past barricades where guards fired warning shots into the air to keep inmates back. The fortress was cracking. Inside a secured room, Jensen plugged Dalton's flash drive into an old laptop. The files were a mess, scattered surveillance clips, shipment manifests, coded messages between staff. But the pattern was there. Every week, shipments came through the kitchen. Boxes marked as produce, dry goods, or cleaning supplies. Most were legitimate. But a fraction, always just enough to go unnoticed, carried something else. One video clip showed it clearly. Guards wheeled in a pallet of boxes stamped perishables. The camera angle caught the way one crate sagged unnaturally, its lid not quite sealing. Hours later, the same crate was gone, not logged, not scanned. In its place, guards walked out carrying duffel bags. Another clip showed a delivery truck pulling up behind the kitchen entrance. The driver wore a standard uniform, but his face was obscured under a cap. The timestamp placed it at 2:14 a.m., long after deliveries were supposed to end. The guards at the door waved him through without inspection. And the manifests? They were doctored. Dalton had flagged the weight discrepancies, hundreds of pounds missing, erased from records. Produced shipments listed at 2,000 pounds, but scales showing half that. The numbers weren't mistakes. They were lies carefully planted, signed off by supervisors who knew better. Jensen leaned back, her throat dry. This was it. Proof that the smuggling pipeline existed. Proof that guards, maybe even the warden, were orchestrating it. But there was more. Buried deep in the folders was a document marked only with a single letter, K. It was a ledger, hand-typed, listing dates, shipments, and payouts. Some lines read like simple transactions. August 2nd, shipment cleared, 15K. Others were darker. September 19th, problem silenced, 5K. One entry made Jensen's blood run cold. October 4th, Cruz neutralized, 10K. The date matched the night of Mateo Cruz's murder. It was undeniable. Cruz hadn't died in a random act of violence. His death had been logged, priced, paid for. Ramirez swore under his breath, pacing the room. This is huge. With this, we can take down Bennett. We can take down King. Hell, maybe even the whole department if it goes that far. Jensen nodded, though unease gnawed at her gut. If we can get it out of here. Because that was the real danger now. Evidence meant nothing if it never left Blackridge. And King, Bennett, and whoever else was in on this would make sure it didn't. A crackle from the radio on the desk interrupted her thoughts. A panicked guard's voice. We're losing C block. They've got rifles, actual rifles. They're pushing through the east yard. Gunfire rattled in the background before the line went dead. Jensen and Ramirez locked eyes. The weapons were already flooding the prison. If they didn't act fast, Blackridge wouldn't just be a prison on fire, it would be a massacre. They moved to the kitchen. If the shipments were the artery feeding this monster, maybe they could cut it. The halls leading there were a battlefield, smoke from burning trash bins, the acrid stench of tear gas, the screams of men locked in brutal combat. Guards and inmates fought side by side against each other with each other. Chaos erased the lines. By the time Jensen reached the kitchen, the steel doors were hanging open. Inside, the place looked less like a cafeteria prep area and more like a staging ground for war. Crates lay smashed across the floor, some spilling potatoes, others spilling black plastic-wrapped bundles. One inmate tore open a bundle, his eyes widening at the contents, bricks of heroin. Another ripped through a crate of frozen beef, revealing pistols sealed in plastic. The kitchen wasn't just a pipeline for weapons, it was a hub for drugs too. Jensen's stomach turned. Cruz had been right about everything. She and Ramirez ducked behind a counter as a group of inmates barged in, grabbing whatever they could carry. Their leader barked orders, his voice hoarse but commanding, "Move fast. They'll shut us down if we don't clear it now." It wasn't random looting. It was organized, controlled. Someone had prepared for this moment. Jensen whispered. They knew the riot was coming. This was planned. She needed proof not just in files but in flesh. Evidence that the shipments were intentional, orchestrated. As if on cue, Officer Bennett entered the kitchen from the back door. His bandaged arm hung stiff, but his eyes burned with focus. He barked at the inmates like they were soldiers under his command. Take the rifles first. Leave the dope. Priorities, boys. We hold the east yard by morning. Ramirez's eyes went wide. He's not even hiding it. Jensen's hand tightened around her pistol. She could end him here. And the man who slit Cruz's throat, who enforced the warden's will, who turned Blackridge into a war machine. But if she fired now, surrounded by inmates armed to the teeth, they'd never make it out alive. Instead, she pulled Ramirez back toward the shadows. Not yet. We need him alive. We need his confession. They slipped away, leaving the kitchen's chaos behind, the flash drive burning like fire in her pocket. She had proof of the shipments, proof of the ledger, proof of Bennett's involvement. But the night wasn't done. Blackridge was unraveling faster than she could keep up, and every second the weapons spread, the prison slid closer to a bloodbath. As she and Ramirez retreated into the smoke-choked hall, the truth hit Jensen like a hammer. The kitchen wasn't just a crime scene. It was the beating heart of a conspiracy that reached far beyond these walls. And if she didn't expose it soon, Blackridge wouldn't just be the deadliest prison in the world. It would become the deadliest battlefield. Thirdly, the basement freezer. Detective Laura Jensen had seen riots before, but nothing like this. Blackridge wasn't just burning, it was unraveling at the seams, spilling its darkest secrets into the open. The kitchen had confirmed it all. Weapons, drugs, contraband smuggled in plain sight, orchestrated by the very men sworn to uphold the law. And now, with rifles in inmates' hands, the prison was no longer a correctional facility. It was a war zone. She and Ramirez pushed through smoke-filled corridors, the crack of gunfire echoing in the distance, screams mingling with the clanging of metal on metal. Twice, they ducked into side rooms to avoid armed gangs sweeping past. The lines had blurred completely. Inmates who'd been enemies hours earlier now banded together under the promise of freedom and firepower. Guards, too, were fractured, some fighting to contain the chaos, others vanishing into the shadows, unwilling to pick a side. Jensen's fingers brushed against the flash drive in her pocket. Dalton's last gift. It was their lifeline now. The files inside weren't just evidence. They were a map of the rot-eating Blackridge from the inside out. But evidence meant nothing if it never left the walls. They reached the stairwell that descended into the basement. The air grew colder as they descended, the chaos above muffled by layers of concrete. The freezer door loomed ahead, its steel surface scarred and dented from years of use. It was here Cruz had pointed them, here Dalton had died, and here the heart of the conspiracy seemed to beat strongest. Ramirez hesitated. His face was pale, the bandages on his side stained with fresh blood. Detective, are we really going back in there? After what happened to Dalton? Jensen's jaw tightened. That freezer is the proof. Cruz knew it, Dalton knew it. Whatever's inside, it ties everything together. If we don't face it, we've got nothing. She forced the door open. The rush of cold air hit her instantly, fogging her breath. The room was just as she remembered, rows of meat and vegetables stacked neatly on shelves, frost creeping along the walls. But the crate at the back was gone. Her stomach dropped. The spot where the military-marked crate had once sat was now empty, a square of frost on the floor, the only evidence it had ever been there. They moved it, Ramirez muttered. They knew we'd come back. Jensen scanned the room, every muscle taut. Empty shelves, crates of food, a smear of blood on the floor near the wall, Dalton's blood. And then her eyes caught something else. Drag marks on the frost, faint but visible, leading toward the rear of the freezer. She followed the marks to a steel panel half hidden behind stacked boxes of frozen corn. Her heart thudded as she pushed the crates aside. The panel was bolted into the wall, but the bolts were loose, hastily replaced. With a grunt, she pried it open. Behind it lay a tunnel. A narrow passage, carved crudely through concrete and reinforced with wooden beams. Cold air wafted through it, carrying the faint scent of oil and rust. My God, Ramirez whispered. They weren't just bringing shipments into the prison. They were moving them through it. Jensen crouched, her flashlight beams slicing into the dark tunnel. The passage sloped downward, vanishing into shadows. The sound of dripping water echoed faintly, mixed with something else, the hum of machinery. This is how they moved the crates without anyone noticing, Jensen said. Straight from the loading docks to here. The freezer was just a cover. They moved cautiously, the tunnel walls closing in around them. The deeper they went, the stronger the hum became, until they emerged into a cavernous chamber beneath the prison. Jensen froze. It wasn't just a storage space. It was a staging ground. Crates upon crates lined the walls, stacked high and stenciled with markings from all over the world. South American shipping companies, Eastern European military suppliers, even boxes labeled with Middle Eastern oil companies. Weapons, drugs, ammunition, all of it hidden beneath Blackridge. In the center of the chamber stood a table. On it, maps were spread wide. Maps of distribution routes, highways, ports. Blackridge wasn't just a prison anymore. It was a node in a global trafficking network. Ramirez's voice shook. This is bigger than we thought. Cruz wasn't just going to expose a dirty guard. He was going to expose an entire empire. Before Jensen could respond, voices echoed from the tunnel behind them. Heavy footsteps, the sound of men carrying rifles. She extinguished her flashlight and pulled Ramirez into the shadows. From the tunnel emerged Bennett, his arms still bandaged, followed by 3 guards with crates balanced between them. They set the crates down with practiced ease. Bennett's voice carried in the cold chamber. This riot's the best thing that could have happened. While they're tearing each other apart upstairs, we clear out the stash. By morning, Blackridge will be ash and we'll be ghosts. One of the guards muttered, "What about the detective? She's still out there." Bennett smirked. "Not for long. King's already putting things in motion. Once this place burns, she burns with it." Jensen's grip tightened on her pistol. Every instinct screamed at her to step out, to end Bennett right there. But she held back. They needed more than his body, they needed the evidence that tied him and King to the network. The guards moved deeper into the chamber, checking inventory. One pried open a crate, revealing rows of assault rifles gleaming under the harsh light. Another cracked open a smaller box, bundles of cash wrapped in plastic. Tens of thousands of dollars. Bennett lit a cigarette, his face illuminated briefly in the glow. Cruz thought he was smart, he said, exhaling smoke. Thought he could talk his way to freedom. But this place isn't about freedom. It's about power. And power belongs to the men willing to take it. Jensen's blood boiled, but Ramirez put a hand on her arm, shaking his head. Not yet. They waited until Bennett and his men finished their checks and disappeared back into the tunnel. Only when their footsteps faded did Jensen step into the light again, her breath sharp in the freezing air. "This is it," she said, her voice low but fierce. "This is what we bring out. The drive, the ledger, and now this, the hidden vault." Ramirez looked around, awe and dread etched on his face. "But how do we get it out? There's too much. And the moment they realize we've seen it." Jensen knew he was right. They couldn't haul crates of weapons and drugs through a burning prison. But they didn't need to. Dalton's flash drive already contained digital proof. The vault itself was the nail in the coffin. All they had to do was survive long enough to tell the world. As they turned back toward the tunnel, a chilling sound echoed through the chamber. The hiss of radios, the crunch of boots on gravel. More men were coming. Jensen's hand went to her pistol, her heart pounding. She looked at Ramirez, his face pale but determined. "Stay close," she whispered. "This isn't just about Cruz anymore. This is about every man they buried under this silence. We're not leaving without a fight." And as the shadows of more guards stretched across the tunnel walls, Jensen realized Blackridge wasn't just the deadliest prison in the world. It was about to become the stage for its deadliest truth.